You're listening to the Business and Life Conversations podcast with Angela Henderson, episode 228. Hey there, you're listening to the Business and Life Conversations podcast. My name is Angela Henderson, and on this show, we talk about improving your business, life, or both by having amazing and rich conversations with brilliant guests who will inspire you and who will give you tips and tricks to help you grow both in life and in business. Well, hey there, you amazing human, and welcome back to another awesome episode of the Business and Life Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ange, from Angela Henderson Consulting, where I'm an international award-winning business consultant and coach who has helped thousands of amazing women business owners get all the pieces in place to have consistent 4- and 5-figure months and then on to 6- and 7+ figure years without burning out in the process. You, my friend, you are in for a treat today because I'm bringing on the amazing woman in business, aka Toni. That's right, Toni, all the way from the Gold Coast down here in Australia, on the podcast today to chat about how to stop hustling for new clients month after month, but still make bank. In this particular podcast episode, we talk about the hustle culture, what business model will allow you to get more clients and still make bank without the hustle. We talk about what type of businesses are right for this particular business model and how the heck to get started. It is a wonderful episode, so get ready for all levels of awesomeness. Before we hop into this episode, I just want to let you know that, wait for it, my famous 2-hour sold-out strategy and goal planning workshops that I host every single year are back. They're going to be happening November 23rd and November 24th, and you get to pay what you can to attend the 2-hour live workshop. I have 2 days, November 23rd and the 24th, so that there's no excuse for you not to join, but also it's pay what you can. So there's also no excuse. You know, you say, I can't afford to work with you, and No, you can afford to work with me because you get to choose what you pay to attend my 2-hour live strategy and goal planning workshop November 23rd and 24th. Plus, if you can't make it live, there will be a replay and you get lifetime access. So if you're really wanting to grow your business and stop feeling that shame and guilt and get off that hamster wheel, stop playing small, then join me. Join me at November 23rd and 24th, where we're going to take that chaos from your head and get the clarity you need by creating actionable goals that work for you, that will help you transform your business and your thought pattern without burning out and make 2023 your best year ever. This workshop includes, obviously, the 2-hour live strategy and goal planning workshop. You're also going to get a 15-page strategy workbook that you get to reuse year after year. There'll be a 30-minute live Q&A at the end. You get lifetime access, and you're also going to get my money and wealth tracker. Spots are limited because I like to keep my group small and intimate. And the sessions, again, are the 23rd and 24th of November. You can choose which one works best for you, and you can pay what you can. To secure one of these limited spots, head to angelahenderson.com.au, click the banner at the very top of the website, and you will have your seat secured. I cannot wait to see you in that 2-hour strategy and goal planning workshop. But for now, let's get into this amazing episode with Toni and I. Welcome to the show, Toni. Super excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Ange. I'm so excited.
Well, I'm glad we finally press record after an hour and 15 minutes of catching up, So we are finally here, and we're going to talk about how to stop hustling for new clients month after month, but still make bank. And this, I think, is important because we'll get into this a little later on around the hustle culture that we see in the online space specifically, but also being able to make bank and doing it in a light and easy way. But before we kind of jump straight into this topic, though, I always like to ask my guests a fun question. So my fun question for the audience to get to know you a little bit better is this. I know you and your partner, Michael, love to challenge yourself both physically and mentally with doing just amazing things around the world. Just like I think your partner just came back from finishing the Boston Marathon, I also know you were one of the first people to jump out of a helicopter and land on the beach. So my curious, fun question is, what is like the most craziest, wildest thing that you've done? And can you share a little bit about that with us?
Oh, that's a great question. I think the craziest, wildest thing I've ever done was probably that helicopter thing landing on the beach. Like, maybe it doesn't sound that crazy, but literally when they're like, okay, you're the first ones in Australia to ever do this. And I'm like, wait, nobody's done this before. Like, nobody's jumped out of a helicopter. And then they had news crews there. Like, they literally had news crews watching us do it. And then it was like on the news. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I can't fall. I can't look stupid. Like, I have to like keep a smile on my face and make myself look like I'm having a good time. So I feel like that was probably one of the the craziest things that I've ever done.
How do you think that moment, because everything that we have, everything is energy, but moments, I believe, also have like this ripple effect, a compound effect, you could say. How do you think that experience has also helped shape you, guide you, nurture you as a woman in business?
Yeah, it's a great question. One of the reasons I actually did it was we'd had some pretty significant business successes right before I did it. And I'm just a big believer in, every time you need to up level in your business, you always also need to up level in your life. And, in your business, you need to keep pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone because that's where your greatest growth happens. But it's the same in your life. So if you're not doing things to push yourself outside of your comfort zone, if you're not doing things to challenge you in your life, that's not going to translate into your business. So I think getting out of that comfort zone and actually realizing, even though I said that was one of the wildest things I've done, the funny thing was that when I actually jumped from that helicopter, I was like, oh, this isn't that scary at all. Like, this isn't that crazy. Like, I was literally more worried about, am I going to land okay? Because the cameras are watching. Mm-hmm. But for me, I think it was like this great affinity to my business is when you feel about like there's these really scary big things you want to do and you build up in your mind that they're so scary and so big, but then you do it and you're like, they're not that bad after all. And I feel like that's what that moment was for me, is realizing that sometimes we build things up in our head and make them feel so much bigger and wilder than what they really are. And all we've got to do is jump and take that plunge and do it and realize, wait, that wasn't so bad after all. I can go and do that like 20 more times now.
And I think you're right. I think we just get into our heads. I mean, that's the thing is mindset is so important when running our business. And I also think that a lot of times we psych ourselves up to think that we can't do hard things. It was, asking my husband for a separation on Christmas Day last year. It was one of those things that this is hard. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Can I stand on my own 2 feet? Whatever. The reality of it is I've come out of it and we can do hard things. So again, when you're standing on that plane going, this is scary, and then you do it and it feels light, it feels easy, it feels achievable. I think that's so often, we just get so much in our head,
So much.
And for those that are listening, I would encourage you to think about, where are you stopping your growth, both in life and in business, because you're letting your head get in the way. And again, if that is something that, if you can honestly, hand on heart, or look yourself in the mirror and say like this, and I get in my way all the time, I would really encourage you to dig deep and find out what's going on, because until you start to have those shifts, it's going to keep, keep presenting, I should say, in your day-to-day life, either subconsciously or at a conscious level.
Absolutely. I always say how you do anything's how you do everything. So if you're not willing to push yourself outside of your comfort zone in your life, you'll never be willing to do that in your business.
100%. Now, for those, now that we've got the helicopter jumping news crew that was on you, do you know what I mean? And also the simple fact about just being able to get out of our head, I'd love for you to just share with the audience a little bit of your background. Where did you start in business and where are you today?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I was a corporate girl. I had a pretty successful high-flying corporate career in, vice president roles globally. And really what I found was I was starting to get really, I think I'll say the word burnt out, but that's a very quick summary. It wasn't like burnout, but I wasn't doing so well. So I actually healed myself by exercising every day and doing a lot of self inner work around like habits and just a lot of self inner work, and did life coaching certifications purely for my own benefit. But then I wrote an article that went viral. It got picked up by Arianna Huffington's publication Thrive. And I had thousands of people asking me like, well, how, like, I want to do the same. And I'd always kind of had businesses on the side of my corporate. And I was like, wait, this is an opportunity. So I created a course that was all around like creating healthy habits and focusing on how to leverage more goals, energy, and time in your life and in your businesses. And that turned into a membership, which became an incredibly successful membership, which led to a bunch of people asking me, well, how do I build incredibly successful online businesses, including memberships and courses and all of that good stuff? And it was serendipitous because like I've been a business girl, like my whole life I've been scaling businesses. So taking the kind of compound of the coaching experience that I had, the actual real life business experience that I had, And then the running an online business experience I had was the perfect combination to propel me into the business coaching. And now I really focus on helping women scale their businesses. So I help them scale their online businesses, but doing it in a really sustainable way so that they can have that freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment. It's not just all about the hustle. And I'm really passionate about women. We were talking before about this, Ange, like of all of the entrepreneurs that make $1 million, less than 2% of them are women. And I'm just like really feel strongly that women are just as smart as men. So we need to change that statistic.
Mm-hmm. And listen, I'm here for that statistic to be changed because it's like, I talk often on the podcast is that it's not just about getting more wealth into our hands just to be able to tick a box. But we also know, and the research shows that women are more likely to contribute that wealth back into their local communities, into their families, and into the broader global market versus men who are hanging on to it, right? So to me, I'm looking at also the bigger change that women can have, the bigger ripple effect women can have, the bigger impact women will have for our world collectively. So I'm here for getting more wealth into the hands of women.
Amen to that.
Now, one of the things that you did just mention there, and that kind of leads me to my next question that I want to kind of dive deeper with you is obviously today we're going to be talking about how to stop hustling for new clients month per month and still make bank. And so the notion of hustle, what are your thoughts about the hustle culture that is infused into the world of business? Why do you think it's here? If you still think it's here, do you think it's getting better? Do you think it's getting worse? Like, what are your thoughts about hustle? Because I think it's important that we talk about hustle before we kind of jump into the strategy behind how to get clients every single month.
Yeah, look, love this. So many thoughts going through my brain. So, really for me, I'm not a big fan of the hustle culture, but I feel like there was the hustle culture that started, probably 10 years ago that started with, what we call inverted commas, like the bro marketers.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I were talking before, like a lot of credit to them because they really helped kick off the online space. But I think they also planted this seed that to be successful in online business, like, you need to work your tail off. You need to be hustling every minute and every hour of the day. And I really don't share that belief in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I personally don't subscribe to that, and the people I work with don't subscribe to that. They're looking for that freedom and flexibility. And it's you do it yourself, Ange. Like it's so simple to run a highly successful business without hustle, without grind. Do you have to put in hard work? Yes. Mm-hmm. Do you have to make some sacrifices? Yes. But do you have to work until midnight every night, every weekend, never see your kids again kind of life? Absolutely not. And so I think we've got to start looking at hustle as a season, not as a lifestyle. But I think what's even more dangerous is now there's so many people that are coming out and being anti-hustle, but it's not really an integrity. So they're presenting the fact that they're anti-hustle, but when you actually peel back the layers, that they are hustling really hard behind the scenes. And I think it's setting, not unrealistic, that's the wrong word, but I feel like there's just some people out there that aren't being great role models and aren't actually walking the walk. They're talking the talk, but not walking the walk. And I think people really need to dig deep and work with somebody like you to understand, like, okay, I know that I'm going to have to put work in. I'm not going to sprinkle magic fairy dust and have a business overnight, but how can I build my business in a sustainable way where I design my life first and my business second and make sure that I've made time for all of the important things. And then on the back end of that, I'm still running a business that's thriving and feels really aligned and is getting me financially where I want to go.
And I think you used an operative, kind of segue there in relation to like it's seasons.
Yes.
There are definitely seasons where I worked way harder than the season that I am in now. 100%. There was when I was working full-time as a mental health clinician, waking up at 4 with the kids, being in the car by 6, getting to work by 7, leaving work at 3:30, coming home, doing dinner. That was the day-to-day stuff. But then from 7 to 11, I was working every single night on the business. I mean, that's how it rolled. And then I had the second business, right? Like It just happened like that. Do I wish that forever? No. But if business was easy, as in everyone could be millionaires,
Yes.
then all of us would be millionaires. So you can't also look at the facts here that it does take some work. It does take time. And I also think that the notion of hustle equals fast money is also something that I feel is so misleading for a lot of the new people in the entrepreneur space as women in business, is that you may, and I use that lightly, be able to hit 1 million quickly. But the people I know, and of the thousands of people that I've worked with, either one-on-one, the group programs, or whatever, as I can tell you, it is a very fucking small percentage of people. If you can come with an enormous amount of capital, maybe you don't have kids, maybe you're not married, maybe you don't have a full-time job, right? And you've got some business kind of sense already, and you don't have to learn from scratch, maybe. But on top of that, you've got to have a really great fucking product. You've got to have really great messaging. You've got to have really great organic partnership, or, do you know what I mean, paid marketing components. Like, but it's rare. But there's this notion that if I hustle more, I'll make more. If I hustle more, I'll make more quicker. And that is not the case either.
Agreed so much. Like everything you said 1 million times over.
So anyways, I think, so I'm glad to know that you too think like this hustle culture. I think there's a time and place and seasons when we work harder, but I think again, we are actively choosing that. And we are also have insight to know that we're in a season. I think when you start hustle is you don't actually know you're in the hustle. It almost becomes an addiction, and you just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And that's where I think it's a detriment. So
until your body tells you to stop. Like,
exactly.
That, you know, like if you don't recognize it soon enough, like your body will, and it'll stop you in its tracks.
And it might not be it could be your body, but it could also be, you know, your relationships are breaking down, right? Yes. You are withdrawing. And then again, don't get me started about the impacts that we have from stress to burnout to mental illness because of this too, right? So it's like so many things. All right. Now, not everyone, I get like, everyone has different ways to get new clients every single month. We all do because of our personalities, our energy levels, our upbringings. But I'm curious to know your thoughts about how do you do this without the hustle? And is there a particular business model that you're talking about or you prefer that allows people to be able to stop hustling for new clients month after month and still make bank?
Yeah. So one thing that I am a really passionate believer in is memberships. Mm-hmm. And that word gets thrown around a lot, but I think what I really love about online memberships is that they do give you that freedom and that flexibility because you can do it online, and it's leveraged because it's a group environment rather than one-to-one. But I think the most beautiful thing about it, you know, which you said around getting clients every single month without the hustle, is with a membership, once you bring them on once, like they stay around forever. As long as you do things right, like they stay around forever. And so you don't then have to hustle month after month after month it's not like you have a course, and I'm not negative on courses. I can talk about how great they are as well. But if you have a course, you sell it once, and then to make more money the next month, you've got to sell to completely new people over again, and then the same and the same and the same. But a membership, literally every month, they keep paying you and they keep showing up. And so you have that stability of an income coming in, whether you've hustled for sales that month or not, like whether you've promoted something that month or not, you still have that stability of it coming in. So that's my massive preference.
All right. So with memberships then, well, not everyone listening might be curious or might understand, I should say, memberships. So do you just want to briefly say, how are you defining memberships?
Yeah. So for me, a membership is anything that where you have an ongoing relationship with them that's in a group type environment. And so that could literally be, you know, I have some clients that have memberships that only have like 20 people in them. I have some clients that have memberships that have 5,000 people in them. And, you know, some of those memberships have massive communities, and it's a very community focused based membership. Others have no community at all, and they literally drip feeding. One of them's like has a kids language membership, and literally each week they get drip fed a different language lesson, but she's not involved. There's no community. It's just drip feeding that lesson. So it can be anything as long as it has that leveraged component and as long as it has that ongoing component.
Yep, no, totally makes sense. So again, I just always like to clarify because your definition of membership can be completely different to someone else's definition. So I always just like to clarify how you're defining that for the purposes of today's podcast. So for those who are listening, I'm curious to know what type of businesses could explore having a membership model, because there'll be people like, well, this sounds good. I'd like to, retain clients. I don't want to have to work harder. I don't want to have to hustle. But what type of businesses could explore having a membership model?
Literally anything. Like it's fascinating to me. I've been in this gig for a number of years now, for a long time, and it never ceases to amaze me when people start new memberships. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if that'll take off. And it does, like without fail. Anything that I'm like, that's interesting, it always takes off. And I think it's just about recognizing that anytime somebody has a need or has a niche, like they would want more information to implement. They would want more community around that. And so sometimes the tiniest, most interesting little niches are the ones that do the best.
Mm-hmm. And it's not uncommon, right? Because again, they're going to stick out, right? They are going to hook people. They're going to be curious versus just being vanilla, right? So I totally agree that you would be surprised with the things that can go off well. Again, if you have a good product, as I often say, if you have a shit product, it probably looks like shit, tastes like shit, smells like shit. And I can't take glitter and make anything more from it because it's still going to be shit at the end of the day, right? Yeah. So it's like, again, going back to your product. Is your product great or is your product shit? Because that's going to make a big difference regardless if you're opening up a membership or just in general. So if memberships are the way to stop the hustle and still make bank, then how would people know if memberships are right for them? So they might go, okay, great, this sounds good. I can probably create a membership, but how would they know? Are there particular questions they could ask themselves? Like, what would you suggest for people to start thinking about whether or not it's right for them and their business?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is, a membership, look, the reality is that you could start a membership and then go, oh, this is not for me, and stop it 3 months later, 6 months later. Like there's no shame in doing that. But in reality, you've probably put in an awful lot of work for something that, is only going to go for 3 to 6 months. So I always feel like, if you're assessing if a membership's right for you, I feel like you already really need to know your audience very well and know what they're looking for. So you're making sure that the membership is addressing their struggles, their needs, their desires, but also know yourself very well to know, actually, this is something that I love and I want to continue to do for a long time. Like you might not, things might change in your life, but you want to go in with the intention to do it for a long time. And I often recommend, like this is not a rule, but I often recommend if you're not sure, start with a course first, even if it's just a short course. See, do you love it? Do you love the energy from the people? Do they love it? And if they do, at the end, go, you know what? I've loved this so much. I'm going to turn it into a membership and flip that into a monthly recurring revenue style product. But don't go, oh, I'm starting a new business and I think I'll do a membership. I'm not really sure. And I haven't figured out who my clients are yet. And I don't really know what they want, but I think I'll just go for it. Because when you do that, you'll end up creating something that you don't love and you want to create something that you really love. So I think that's the first thing. Like, do you know your people? Do you know what they want? Do you know yourself? Do you know what you want? And then from there, make sure that you jump in with your full heart and that you're really committed to it.
Now, one of the things that you said there that I want to touch upon is you said about does your audience want it? What do they want? Do they need it, etc.? But often some people won't have huge audiences. Yeah. They won't have enormous amount. And when I say audience, I'm not just talking about email list. I'm also talking about social followers, etc. And so our members, is it best to start off as a new business owner with a membership, or is it better to say maybe start one-on-one first and wait till you have audience growth? Because in my experience, I've seen people get told, just start a membership, you're going to make a lot of money, but then they don't have audience. And then they build this membership, but then they don't have anyone to buy from. So I'm curious to know your thoughts about that.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I don't think there's any right or wrong way. I think it's very much what feels aligned with you. Yes. To give you some insight though, when I started my first online program, I had no audience. Like I literally didn't have an email list at all. Like I had to buy email software to start it.
Yeah.
I did not have a social media presence in any way, shape or form outside of my own like personal Facebook and LinkedIn. I didn't have anything else. And my first course, I had 330 people sign up for it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that was unusual, right? I didn't know that. So I feel like I don't want people to believe like, oh, I don't have this big email list, like I can't get started, or I don't have this, I can't get started. But what you need is people who you know already, wherever they sit. They might be people you know personally, like, you know, you could go get them in a room together. It might be people that are on your personal socials, but you need to know that you've got people who admire you and want your help with a problem that they have. So you need to know for sure that they have that problem. And then I think you need to know for sure what works for you. Like for me, I couldn't start with one-on-one. I was still working in corporate. I didn't have the bandwidth for one-on-one.
Yeah.
But I started a course that I quickly flipped that into a membership. At the time, I thought I invented memberships. I didn't know it was already a thing. I was like, oh, I got this cool idea. We could just continue to work together. And I thought I invented it. Apparently I didn't. But like that's where I started was a course. But so many of my clients that I chat to, I'm like, why don't you start with one-on-one? Because when you do that, you can get a deeper understanding of like, what are people looking for? You know, what are the challenges that come up? Who do you enjoy working with? So it's an it depends answer, but I feel like you do need to have an audience, but that doesn't necessarily mean huge email list. And I think that you could start wherever it feels aligned, but you're always trying to answer those same questions. Like, what are their problems? What do they need from me? How can I solve their problems? And so that's what you've got to be able to focus on answering before you jump into a membership.
Totally makes sense. And so for those listeners who might be out there going, you got 330 people in, no email list. Where did the people come from?
So from my personal Facebook and LinkedIn, which like to me, and just be like, to be fully transparent, like when I started out, I had no idea what I was doing. So, you know, now we would go like, make sure you've got your niche sorted. I literally I was like, I can help anybody. It doesn't matter how old or young you are. And I had like people as young as 18 signing up. And I think my oldest person that signed up was like 76, and there was men and women. And then after my first launch, I was like, wait, I can help everybody, but I don't want to help everybody. You know, it's so much easier to market when I'm not helping everybody. So I tweaked that pretty quickly. So it was a pretty like broad group of people, but some of those people like didn't know me particularly well, because like on my personal socials, like I had people that I'd met in other communities and stuff like that. And I never added them as a friend with the view of like, oh, maybe one day I'll sell to them. But that was never my plan. I just connected with them. And so kind of became friends with them, but they jumped in. And some of the people that I worked with way back then, and then it got referred, you know, other people shared it with other people and all of that kind of stuff. But some of those people are still clients to this day. And they started off like working on like habits, and now they're building, you know, multi-million-dollar businesses, and they've been with me on that journey since day one.
No, dude, so fun and so cool. I just think it's just so good that people can see the different lenses from things, right? And that you always still have to find what works for you. But at the end of the day, like you said, you didn't have a business audience per se, but you leveraged the relationships and other personal relationships that you had on doing your personal pages, and for them to be able to do it. And like I said, if you have a great product and you're going to solve a problem, people will buy. I genuinely believe that, because again, you're speaking their language and they're going to throw their money at you in a good way. Right. So,
and I worked for it. Anybody, like I put stuff out there on my socials, but like literally if they liked it, I was like, hello in their DMs. And like, you know, these days I'm like, oh, probably what I did was like through knowing what I know now from a business lens, I probably wouldn't have done things in the same way. Like I literally got barred from Facebook because I sent too many DMs, but that was all I knew how to do. Like I didn't have any other way to communicate with people. And so, you know, I just did what worked. And I think I'd encourage you to do the same. Like, don't be a spammer. I wasn't a spammer. Like it was people I knew, and I was writing nice email messages and stuff, but you know, don't get yourself blocked from Facebook from sending too many messages. You can be smarter than what I was back then when I didn't know anything. You've got great resources like Ange to learn great strategies from, but it's like, it still took work even then. Like I didn't have a business audience. I didn't I didn't have anything, but it still took me sitting in a hotel room at 11 o'clock at night, like sending DMs to people to go like, hey, did you see my thing? Do you think you might be interested, to get it over the line?
Yep. But I also think it's about having the courage to be able to do that too, right? Because you could have been telling the stories of yourself, I won't do this. They don't want to hear from me. My product's not good. But you still had the courage to be able to reach out to those people. And that's what I think is sometimes old school marketing, when you would have to go sell steak knives or encyclopedias right at the door, I think is actually one of the things that I think all people should be able to do. You should be able to cold email, or not necessarily cold email, but be able to cold sell to anyone. Because if you can cold sell to anyone, steak knives, ice, to an Eskimo, as I say in that thing, do you know what I mean? Or whatever it is, right? The reality of it is you will be able to sell. And in order for you to have a successful business, I believe people need to be selling every single day, whatever that looks like and however that feels right for them, because it's your job to sell every day. It's your job to make money every day. It becomes part of your position description. And if you're not willing to do that, so the fact that you had that ambition and that courage even earlier on, to me, is one of the key elements of what people need to be able to have to get out of their way to be successful.
And I've had a phenomenal, and I don't mean this in an arrogant way. I mean this in a, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful way. I've had a phenomenal entrepreneurial career, and I look at what I've achieved, and I'm so grateful and so thankful. And I've put in the work, and I went to school, and I did all, I did all the things you need to do to check the boxes, but I still sometimes pinch myself going, is this really my life? Is this really what I get to do every day? But if I hadn't done that then, if I hadn't taken that courageous step and seized an opportunity, and it wasn't easy, did I have imposter syndrome and doubt? Absolutely. I was freaking out, am I really doing this? This is crazy. But if I hadn't done that, there is no way I would be where I am today. And it's kind of we were talking about at the beginning, jumping out of that helicopter, you got to take the leap at some point. You've got to do the uncomfortable stuff that you don't know if people are going to judge you for. There was probably people that were judging me in the DMs, going, what does she know? Blah, blah, blah. But there was so many other people that were massive supporters and that helped me on the journey to where I am now. And every action I took led to another door opening, another opportunity that I could seize that paved the path to where I am. So you have to do those things.
You mentioned something there that people were probably judging you, but the reality of it is we are equally judging just as many people as other people are judging us.
Oh my goodness, yes, every day.
Right? And so
not even consciously, it's a subconscious, it's human nature.
It's just part of who we are. So it's well, if we can do it, then why are we worried about what other? I mean, I know I talked about Tinder recently, obviously with my dating experience, but it was that's one of the things. It's here I am swiping left or right, judge. But there's people who are doing the same thing to me. You still just have to have the balls or vagina, whatever you want, just to get out there and get over it, Yes. Because it's one of the things that hold us back. Now, we could keep talking about this because there's so many conversations I could keep talking to you about. My question, though, is those people who are out there, sometimes people think memberships have to be low ticket, $27 per month, $37 recurring revenue. So do all memberships have to be low ticket, or can be memberships range in cost?
They can range in cost. So they can be literally whatever you want them to be. I have clients that have memberships as little as $7 a month. I have clients, and I'm even part of memberships that are $3,000 plus a month. So, anything that has that monthly recurring revenue is really considered a membership. And I think there's a big misnomer because people are well, I'll just create a course because I can charge more for that. I'll create a course for $500 rather than doing a $49 a month membership. It's but it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. Why not create a $500 a month membership? And, yes, you have to back it up with being able to give the value that matches with what you charge for the membership, but that can come in so many different forms. Value doesn't equal the time that you put into it. Value equals what your members get out of it. So you've got to just focus on what are the outcomes? What's the transformation I'm helping my members make? And what's that worth to them? How would they value that?
No, that totally makes sense. And I also again, people always ask me pricing, but pricing will come down to you as the individual. And if you're not aligned, do you mean whatever your pricing is, you will repel people because you're repelling it yourself. And just know too that memberships can evolve. I know mine has is you might start at one cost point, but it doesn't mean you can't increase the price as you move on and as you make your membership better. You know, it evolves just as you evolve. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And also think about your audience as well. Like, who do you want to attract? Because you attract different people at different price points as well.
Yep. No, 100%. And again, and they'll buy for different reasons, depending on where they're at in their journey too. You know, a lot of times that people are like, oh, memberships are good, but I don't want to do this 12 months of the year, or I want to be able to take leave, or I want to be able to go on a family vacation. Can you still run a successful membership and still take leave?
1,000,000%. I feel like that's like the biggest misnomer. I hear it all the time. Yeah, I'd love to have a membership, but I just don't want to feel tied down to it. And the reality is, like, a membership can be whatever you make it. Like I said before, I have a client who literally does not show up in her membership ever at all, like ever. She just has deliverables in there, and people, like, some people would like not even know who she is because it's got nothing to do with her membership. Other memberships they show up multiple times a week because that's what they've chosen to do. So I think part of it's your setup and knowing yourself and knowing, like, am I somebody that likes to work in seasons? Do I like to show up face to face? Like, how do I like to work? Because some people love that interaction on a really regular basis. But then the second thing is knowing that, you can absolutely take a break from your membership. Like, I do it quite regularly where I say to my team, like, I'm traveling and I'm not going to be there for these weeks, or I'm taking personal vacation. I'm not going to be there. And I think that role models to your members like great behavior, because it doesn't matter what niche you're in. No one should be expected to be on all the time. Mm-hmm. And usually the person that's more worried about you not being there is you. Like, I remember early in my career where I was like super stressed. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't make this call, and freaking out. And they were like, we can cope without you. Like, our whole existence doesn't rely on you being there. And I was like, that kind of hurts a little, but it's true. And then there's so many other ways. Like, there's so many other people that like run memberships. Like, if I needed to go away and I really wanted somebody to fill in, I could call Ange and she'd be like, yeah, I would love to fill in and coach for you that week inside your membership. You can do that. You can pre-record stuff and drip feed pre-recorded stuff through your platform. Like, there's literally an infinite amount of ways that you can still work when you want to work and be on when you're on.
No, I love it. And I'm a huge believer, with my own masterminds and with profit pillars and things like that, is that I believe it's my responsibility to role model that you can still have a successful business and still take holiday, right? And if you choose to work during your holiday, that's fine, because that just might be your personality. But just know that eventually that will catch up to you eventually. And, again, there's no wrong or right way, just like there's 900 different ways to skin a cat, as they would say. But again, I'm here to say, you're here to say, you can definitely have a membership model, a mastermind model, whatever, where you can still take time off and still be very successful.
Exactly.
Now, for those who are listening who might want to get started with the membership, what are the top things they need to consider right now? I know you briefly touched about it, but can you just recap? Are there top 3 things, top 2 things, top 5 things that they need to really consider right now before they would dive deep into exploring that model further?
Absolutely. So I think the first one is looking at yourself and what you want. Are you looking for that recurring revenue and kind of avoiding that month to month, lumpy revenue because you're having to sell when you want to get business? So I think looking at yourself from that perspective, but also looking at how do you like to operate, and does a membership feel aligned and feel right for you? Mm-hmm. The second thing is to look at your audience. Do you have one at all? Because you need one. It doesn't matter what that looks like, but you need one. What do they want? What are their problems? And then how can you solve them? And what the outcomes could you give them? What solutions could you give them? And what deliverables would you give them to be able to match with that? And then once you've got that, go baby, go. It's so easy to get launched. I think the hardest part is making the decision to launch, but the easy part is actually, launching it and starting to get your members and loving them.
My goodness. Well, this has been gold, because I'm all about women being able to, and men being able to create models within their business that allow them flexibility, freedom, the lifestyle, memory building, whatever that is important to you. And this sounds like a really great thing that people need to consider and or explore when that time is right for them. Also remember that it's never going to be perfect. My memberships and stuff have evolved over time, and the customer experience and the customer journey and all that will evolve over time, but it doesn't mean you can't start today. It doesn't mean that you can't make a bigger impact today. Again, you've got a solid product, you can solve a problem, people will buy, right?
100%.
So this has been absolutely gold. Now, for those people who are like, I need a little bit more Toni in my life, where can they connect with you?
Yeah, feel free to connect with me. Instagram's probably the best place. I don't have a huge presence on the gram because I'm always so busy helping everybody else as I'm like tired when it's my turn to go and do my own, but I am in the DMs. So feel free to hit me up in the DMs anytime, because I genuinely just, I genuinely am really serious about my mission to change that whole status of women in entrepreneurship. And I am so willing to help anyone who wants to get started, because I just really feel passionate about my marketing should change more lives than the people that actually work with me ever change. So feel free to reach out anytime.
Dude, I absolutely love it. So yes, definitely connect with Toni. She's a good human, and I'm glad to have her in my world. She's making a ripple effect for those women in business. So it's always good to have awesome humans in our space. I'd like to ask one final question to all my guests. And my final question is what do you know now that you wish you knew when you first started out in business?
Oh, that's such a great question. I think probably my biggest lesson is there's no such thing as failure in entrepreneurship. I think we get so caught up in, are we going to fail? Like, I'm going to fail, and is this going to fail? But I think my biggest lesson is there is no such thing as failure. You either learn or you grow. And the only time you fail, in inverted commas, is when you give up. So if you just stick with it, continue to learn, continue to pivot, continue to listen to smart ladies like Ange, then, you will never, ever fail. You will only, learn and grow, and just don't give up, and you will succeed.
Dude, I absolutely love it. Yeah, there's always lessons. Anything we look at, there's always a lesson. There's always an opportunity if you choose to look at it with that lens, right? But so often people choose to look at the negative. I'm like, what's the positive that can come from this? So thank you so much, my friend, for being on today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for your wisdom. And also thank you for making the change that we need for women to be able to have more wealth into their overall world. So thank you for that. And before I sign off, please remember that my team and I will be putting together the show notes for this episode at angelahenderson.com.au. Don't forget to head over to Instagram and connect with Toni. And for you, amazing human, have another amazing day no matter where you are in the world. And I look forward to you joining me next week for another awesome episode of the Business and Life Conversations podcast. Thanks again, Toni.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Business and Life Conversations podcast with Angela Henderson. www.angelahenderson.com.au